It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mains and Dutch. I'm your host, Mains, and my colleague, after lifting all them weights, is ready for week one. It's Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
It's here. The time is now. The talking ends.
The talking's over. It's time to get your predictions on the board, which so we can laugh at them in 17 to 18 weeks. And then we will give you our Neil's fantasy darling, Neil's fantasy loser, and then we will give our fantasy teams of the week, Neil. It is that
Indeed.
time. It's start to get this party started. We
Let us
will
roll.
we will probably talk about big news of the two big newses of the week during the show. That will be Le'Veon Bell and how he screwed over my League of Record fantasy team. As Neil said, Bell End. And Khalil Mack, now part of the Chicago Bears, and John Gruden attempting to turn it back to 1998 in Oakland.
A man with a contract worth a guaranteed $100 million saying that $90 million is an awful lot of money for one player. Oh, sweet irony.
Love it, Neil. Love it. Love it. So we're gonna, as we said, we're gonna start with predictions. And Neil asked, I don't know why, I think he did to gloat, that we should first discuss our own two teams and how we believe our two teams will play. So I'm going to start with the Washington semi-professional football team. As always, they start the season as a semi-professional outfit. Sometimes they have been known to drift into professionalism, but most of the time they end up back as a semi-professional outfit. I look at the schedule at Arizona versus Indianapolis, and you think, ooh, there could be an interesting 2-0 start. Just so you know, it won't happen. We haven't won an opening game in 5 years, so we will construct a way to lose that. However, as Washington, a bizarrely weird team where they're actually like decent and rubbish at the same time, they literally define 8-8, and there are 8 wins on this schedule. Unfortunately, Eli Manning's still the New York Giants, so only one of them will come against the Giants. We'll probably go 3-3 in division. We play Tampa. We play Indianapolis, Arizona. Then we will undoubtedly beat a good team because we do stupid things like that. We play Green Bay. We play Carolina. Play Atlanta. Play Jacksonville. We will end up beating one of those teams, if not two. We will finish 8-8, but we will probably be 5-8 and then get to 8-8. Standard Washington fare. Neil, Philadelphia, what are we thinking?
Well, the expectation would be, obviously, Carson Wentz isn't going to play on Thursday. They're still being very coy about when he will actually play, which, to be honest, I've got no issue with. As the Eagles have won a Super Bowl, I'd quite like to challenge for a few more with Carson Wentz at quarterback, so I'd rather do that with him being healthy and not have to worry that he comes back too quickly, and then next season I'm trying to talk myself into Nate Sudfeld being a long-term answer, as good as Sudfeld may well be. I think, given the players the Eagles have on defense and the varied ways they can go on offense with the various types of players they have, I think as long as Wentz doesn't come back and is given the keys to a team that is crashing and burning around him, I think the Eagles are still going to be NFC front runners. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say they're still the best team in the NFC East. I think defensively,
that is one of the boldest statements you will ever hear on Waxing Lyrical. That is a hot take of which the likes of which you never usually hear.
And I say I would be disappointed if the Eagles did not host at least one playoff game.
Of course,
I just worry that there are a few injuries. They may be lingering, and this may be a season of challenging, but also finding out what the Eagles have moving forward. So, while the Super Bowl is obviously now an expectation, while I would like the Eagles to win it, I will settle for a playoff win.
I think you're right, Neil, and I think the start of the 2018-19 America's game, which will come out around this time next year, will highlight those injuries and how the team overcome them early on in the season. In terms of predictions, we're going to do playoff teams for the NFC, playoff teams for the AFC, who's going to be the first pick in the 2019 draft, MVP, defensive rookie, offensive rookie, coach of the year, then the title games, Super Bowl, and the winners. So are you ready with your predictions, Neil?
I am.
So, Neil, playoff teams in the NFC, I'm going to give you my 6. I've got Philadelphia, I have Atlanta, I have the Rams, I have the Vikings. They would be the 4 division winners. My 2 wild cards are the Saints and the Packers.
Okay, well, we can go straight onto the AFC because that's my 6.
My fear with that is I think 5 of those 6 teams made the playoffs last year. And by definition, that doesn't usually happen.
No.
So take these predictions with a pinch of salt, listeners. I'm sure you will. Don't worry, though. I think it's the same. Oh, no, it's actually not. So AFC, I have, I think, 4 teams going back to the playoffs. I do. I have the Pats, the Steelers, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Then on the wildcard side, I have the Chiefs and the Bengals.
I have 5 of the same of the 6. Although, despite when we covered the division, I'm saying that they were bog standard 8-8 team. I'm actually starting to come round to them. So same division as the Bengals, but I've got the Ravens as one of the wildcard spots.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I've been listening to too much around the NFL, but or there's a lot of Bengals love, and I'm thinking, yeah, actually I can see it. But I think it's comfortable. We both believe an AFC North team is going to make. There's going to be 2 AFC North teams, which is a return to their happier times. Neil, who's going to be the first pick in the 2019 NFL draft?
The Buffalo Bills. They may as well start the clock now.
That's for those who like to use their money to give to betting companies. That would be 4-1. I also believe it will be the Buffalo Bills. However, the Oakland Raiders are 14-1. They were a terrible defense the year they got to the playoffs. And Khalil Mack had 10.5 sacks. They were a terrible defense last year. I think Khalil Mack had 10 sacks. Khalil Mack isn't there anymore, and the defense is still terrible.
It's absolutely stunning the amount of damage John Gruden has done.
It's like
without a meaningful snap being taken.
It's like you say, oh, you don't usually see this very often. Well, in the same 4-year period, first 4 years of his career, Chandler Jones had 46 sacks for the New England Patriots. Mack had 50 for the Raiders, and the Patriots traded Chandler Jones. So it has happened before in very recent memory. Big differences, Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. So there is an issue on that. John Gruden trying to make a mark is all well and good, but I don't know why you pick a fight with your best player.
We can just make something brutally clear. John Gruden became an attractive coaching hire because he wasn't coaching. So he went backup quarterback route. You look good because you're not doing it. John Gruden has won a Super Bowl. And we do know, of course, that he was instrumental in the selection and construction of that Tampa Bay roster. Oh, hang on. No, he wasn't. He took Tony Dungy's team to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but to be fair, if we want to be brutally honest about that, Bill Callahan took his Oakland Raiders team to the Super Bowl. So, and of which they got battered by Tony Dungy's team.
That Gruden had never been able to do. Since that Super Bowl with Tony Dungy's team, Gruden has done sweet FA as a GM and as a coach. Then he had 10 years out and has come back and is a clown. I feel sorry for the Raiders fans because that 2016 season, that's the blip.
Yeah, it definitely looks like the anomaly. Neil, who is your MVP of the league?
Philip Rivers.
Oh my God, that's mine as well. So I also picked Philip Rivers. That is a massive 28-1. We are literally, oh my God, the three people of LA who support the Chargers and the good people of San Diego will be hunting us down with pitchforks soon.
They'll just go to the beach.
Yeah, they'll probably just go, oh, well, back to Southern California life it is. Yeah, 28-1, Phil Rivers, great value. Loaded team, praying more. Whoever's still fit right now stays fit for a period of time.
Yeah, take care, guys.
Defensive rookie of the year, Neil.
Derwin James.
9-1. You won't believe this, but me and Neil didn't do this together. I also picked Derwin James. He is 9-1. He is the safety for the said San Diego Superchargers.
The who?
LA, yes. I'm just going to call him San Diego forever. Everyone else does. And
you really don't?
No, I think they do. Joey Bosa causing havoc. So quarterback throws up, wobbly pass, intercepted by safety, Derwin James. Seems tasty.
Don't need to play the games?
No. Offensive rookie of the year, Neil.
You say yours first.
I picked the only man I know who walks through Cleveland without his top on with a tiger. That's Baker Mayfield at 6-1.
See, the flaw in that, of course, is he'd have to play. So I'm steering away from Baker Mayfield, and I'm going with Anthony Miller of the Bears.
Anthony Miller of the Bears. You're gonna make me work out. You're gonna make me work out the odds for him. Some odds, them, Neil, as I can't even find them. So you're probably talking in the realm of 175-1. What's your thoughts on Anthony Miller?
I just think, from what I hear, Mitchell Trubisky apparently is more comfortable and more efficient when he's targeting the middle of the field rather than the outside. So when they've got Trey Burton and Anthony Miller playing in the slot, I think they could be more crucial to Mitchell Trubisky taking a Goff/Wentz style second-year leap, more so than Allen Robinson, who we still don't know what his status is. We don't know how fit and healthy he is. So Anthony Miller he's a very, very exciting prospect, good athletic profile, excellent college production, and the slot receiver is becoming more and more important. So while early round rookie wide receivers haven't been great since 2014, I think he's fallen nicely into a role that he can excel in.
Who's your coach of the year, Neil?
Mike Zimmer.
And Mike Zimmer is 14-1, which is an excellent bet. He has the Minnesota Vikings, obviously. Well, I've gone all in, Neil. So if I've got Philip Rivers and I've got Derwin James, then I've gone Anthony Lynn, and that's 16-1. Trying to fly in the face of the fact that I thought he was a terrible coach last year. So we'll have to find out. Let's get to the teams, Neil. Let's get to the big time. Who's going to be in the NFC title game?
It'll be the Los Angeles Rams at the Minnesota Vikings.
It's an interesting concept. I have got the Minnesota Vikings traveling to Philadelphia to face the Philadelphia Eagles. Who is the AFC title game, Neil?
The Los Angeles Chargers at the New England Patriots.
I have the New England Patriots at the Los Angeles Chargers. Who's the Super Bowl?
The Los Angeles Rams against the New England Patriots, which we may have seen before in one guise or another.
I have a game we've seen before as well. We saw it 365 days previously. I have Eagles versus Pats again. Who's going to win, Neil?
I've put a question mark.
That's great. You picked 74 different things and decided to sit on the fence for the Super Bowl.
Well,
Bravo.
I just think, wouldn't it be perfect if the Rams won and then Brady retired, bringing it full circle?
Possibly, yeah. That would make a lot of people very happy. I'm not sure it's going to happen though.
No, because dream team.
Exactly. I picked the Eagles again, mainly
nice of you,
because it'll
Chris.
piss you off. No, because I mean we can kind of fart about, and we seem to do, and there's a load of stepping around it. But this team won the Super Bowl last year with Nick Foles, and I don't know. Everybody can remember those two games, like at the end, but the Nick Foles I know, like the consistently person I've seen is the guy who got like 3 points against Oakland and about 2.5 points against Dallas. So
it was no.
They're gonna get Wentz back probably week 3 or 4, I would guess. No need to rush him back, and they're the best team in the NFC East. Then they know how to win playoff games now. I don't see really what the issue is. I think they're going to win 13 games in the division in the regular season. And we said that a couple of weeks ago. They'll play the Vikings. They'll beat them. Pats v Chargers in Los Angeles or on the West Coast with the Pats winning makes me very sad. Takes me back to a time when LaDainian Tomlinson was leading the league. But yeah, I believe that will happen again. At the end of the day, from a Pats point of view, I will eventually stop picking them when a team in the AFC actually attempts to beat them.
Yeah, until then, what's the point?
What's the point? Exactly right. Just pick a different team.
We're just wasting our time.
Pick a different team to play them in the AFC title game, really. So there are predictions. If you've got your own, give us a tweet at waxing_lyrical, or individually, Neil is at ndutton13. I am at Mainsy7. I'm sure we've got Chiefs and Raiders and Broncos fans who are made up that have gone all in on the Los Angeles Chargers.
They'd have to listen.
True. Neil, let's get into the normal type of things going on now. Every week on this show, Neil gives us his fantasy darling of the week, and he's about to give it now.
Hello, darling.
Now, this is, of course, dependent on this fantasy darling actually practicing this week and then being fit to play, because there was a report came out today that he wasn't unlikely to practice because of a core injury. Well, stop eating apples. But it's Austin Seferian-Jenkins of the Jaguars. They're playing the New York Giants. The Giants refuse to cover tight ends. They just won't do it. On principle, they refuse to do it. They gave up a receiving touchdown to a tight end in 10 consecutive games last season. 32.5% of all offensive touchdowns scored against the Giants in 2017 were scored by tight ends. They can't cover them. They won't cover them. ASJ, they're not a high-volume passing offence. Obviously, they're not going to want to expose Blake Bortles to more passes than he can possibly handle. They are going to try and run the ball, but when they get down in the red zone, Austin Seferian-Jenkins, who, I think he scored 25 touchdowns last season, had 23 of them called back for one reason or another. But I think, especially in daily fantasy where he is ridiculously cheap, this may come up later. He is a play, especially if you're streaming tight ends, he is an option if he is healthy.
Yeah, if he's healthy, obviously. And Jackson, one of them quirks of the schedule where you need to look at it. Jacksonville are playing in New York, where it's so hot that Roger Federer can't play tennis. So it's not like they're going to New York in November, December. It should be perfect, quote-unquote, Jacksonville weather.
By the way, I really hope that tennis player didn't pick Le'Veon Bell.
I hope so too. I hope someone said to him, "You need to." I know you've been busy the last few hours, but while you were doing that, Lev Bell decided he's not going to turn up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
shit got real, mate.
And Neil's decided to tell me that it's going to be week 10 before he does. Let's hope his agent is just playing silly beggars, as it's known in the UK.
Well, apparently the Steelers have said they're not going to comment about it anymore. If his agent wants to discuss it further, he has their number, of which I just feel that his agent is now currently posting on Facebook, my phone is broke, if anyone wants me, contact me on here.
No, I just say, you know our number, and like the agent responds with, you know ours, it's 5 years, 100 million, 60 million guaranteed, or whatever.
Yeah, if you don't meet that, we'll see you in November.
See you later. Right. We don't always spin positive on the show. Actually, we try desperately not to because it's funnier to be negative. So let's pick out one of those standard losers of the week.
One of my losers this week is Doug Baldwin, who obviously has said that he's not fully fit and probably won't be this season, which is lovely to hear. Thank you, Doug. It's nice and honest, but as I say, it's going to count against you in the long run. The Seahawks are playing the Denver Broncos. Denver last season allowed the third fewest fantasy points per game to wide receivers. Baldwin would probably be lining up when he moves to the slot against Chris Harris. Last season, Chris Harris allowed 5.8 yards per target and 2.1 receptions per game. And it's worth pointing out that over the last 2 seasons, Doug Baldwin has averaged 13.2 PPR points on the road as opposed to 16.2 at home. So I don't think he's not healthy. So if you did draft him, I hope you got him at a decent price. But he's someone, if you can avoid starting him this week, I really, really would.
We did the NFC West last week, and then I've listened to a lot of previews that's from other people, much more important than us, who seem to suggest that Seattle aren't anywhere near as bad as we think they are, and people also suggesting that they're going to go to the playoffs. First of all,
in what sport?
I'm completely stunned, and I'm assuming they're mental. Another issue for Doug Baldwin fans is the fact that this week, the new and improved offensive line of the Seattle Seahawks with their new and improved coach go against Von Miller and Bradley Chubb. Good luck, everyone, and pray for Russell Wilson's safety.
You'll have to drink plenty of that holy water to stop getting concussions this week.
Holy water. Yeah. Obviously, the fancy darling of fancy loser, but me and Neil put our necks on the line week in, week out, and give you our daily fantasy teams of the week.
Mains and Duts. Daily fantasy team of the week.
Show me the money.
So, usual thing, it's a standard classic lineup on DraftKings. 50,000, I think, to spend, isn't it? Yeah. Quarterback, two running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and a defense. Neil, who is your quarterback?
My quarterback, in homage to my co-host, is the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton, 5,800. The Colts last year gave up the 9th most fantasy points to quarterbacks. Dalton has a 6-0 touchdowns to interception ratio in 4 career meetings against the Colts, and their pass defense is garbage. So yeah, I'm all on board with the Red Rifle here. He's also an excellent streaming option in seasonal leagues.
I love garbage pass defenses, so I am going with Phillip Rivers of the Los Angeles Chargers, 6,400. He's playing the Kansas City Chiefs. Weapons galore, and okay, I know they signed the amazing Kendall Fuller, who Neil continually tells me about. However, they haven't got Marcus Peters anymore, and they couldn't stop anyone last year. So I don't expect that to change. Who is your running back 1, Neil?
My running back 1 at 5,600 is Alex Collins of the Ravens. They're playing the Bills. The Bills allowed the 2nd most fantasy points to running backs last season. Their defense has not dramatically improved, as best I can tell. Collins has 6 rushing touchdowns in his last 7 games last season, and 20 of the 32 offensive touchdowns against the Bills last season were scored by running backs.
I assume he's the defo starter in Baltimore now then.
He's the early down starter. It looks like Buck Allen is going to take the passing down work, but they have lots of options in the passing game. So it'd be hard pressed to say if they're going to lean on one person more than others. But he's the early down workhorse, as it were.
My running back one should have been the second pick in the League of Records All-Stars fantasy team. He wasn't. The second pick was Le'Veon Bell, who I'm now cursing. So it's David Johnson of the Arizona Cardinals against the Washington semi-professional football team. They did sign to Ron Payne. Improvements have been made, but Washington allowed 4.6 yards a carry over the season last year. Just for people who are unsure, that is effing terrible. I expect Arizona to do a lot of running or dump offs, as David Johnson can basically be a receiver at times as well. Lots of touches. It's a PPR type. It's a PPR thing on DraftKings. So I expect him to get a lot of points. He's 8,800. He is my most expensive player by a long way.
Just before we go on to my running back 2, what do? Here's a guy who doesn't give a damn, I guess, so we'll treat it as such. I just hate it came to this. He's making 7 times what I make, twice as much as Al Villanueva is making, and we're the guys who do it for him. That's Ramon Foster, guard for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
This is going to end really good, really well.
Yes.
I guess there's 2 things on this. A lot of people are bidding a lot of money in auctions, or a lot of people are playing their number 1 on waiver wires for James Conner, and also there's a lot of people being very happy and doing happy dances if you got Antonio Brown, because I assume he'll get even more touches than he would have.
Does make Vance McDonald an interesting streamer if ASJ can't go, because if the Giants love giving up points to tight ends, the Browns just live for it.
Who's your running back 2, Neil?
It's Dalvin Cook. I found myself drafting him an awful lot in my seasonal leagues. He's 6,200. The 49ers gave up the most fantasy points to running backs last season. Obviously, they got better towards the end, as the whole team did, the Jimmy Garoppolo effect. Cook averaged 111 scrimmage yards per game as a rookie. Obviously, ridiculously small sample size. He only played 4 games. I don't think the 49ers are going to enjoy themselves in week 1, so I can see the Vikings. They're going to work in Latavius Murray, but I think Cook was used last season as a workhorse bell cow. He got work in the passing game as well. I think he'll see quite a bit of volume in this one.
My running back 2 is also Dalvin Cook. One of the leagues you didn't get him in was our league, because I did. Go me. For every Lev Bell, there's a Dalvin Cook. As you said, although everybody thinks San Francisco can't be beaten because of Jimmy Garoppolo, the defense was not great, and they conceded a load of points to running backs.
Yeah, they can be beat, and they will be beat.
Exactly. Wide receiver 1, Neil.
I'm just going to list some names for you here, and I want you to tell me who they are. Okay? Quincy Wilson, Kenny Moore, Nate Hairston, Pierre Desir, Chris Milton, DJ White, Lindsey Pipkins.
First of all, that last one's made up / a 1920s jazz singer from Alabama. Are they wide receivers for the New England Patriots?
No, they're cornerbacks for the Indianapolis Colts, which is why AJ Green, 7,300. He has a receiving touchdown in his last 3 games against the Colts. The Colts gave up the 11th most fantasy points to wide receivers in 2017. I think they're getting Malik Hooker back, but as you can see, Malik Hooker is not going to be going up against AJ Green. One of those clowns is going to.
What's that? Say that last name again.
Lindsey Pipkins.
That is an absolutely spectacular name, and I think I read that didn't she do the crime in an Enid Blyton Famous 5?
No, I think she has the last carriage on the Ninky Nonk in the Night Garden.
Oh yeah, one for the UK listeners there. My wide receiver one is Stephon Diggs, Minnesota Vikings. He's 6,300. See previous comments on poor San Francisco 49ers defense. And Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen are awesome. The only fear that you should have on Stephon Diggs is don't expect him to score touchdowns because his quarterback's Kirk Cousins, and it kind of gets a bit vague and grey in the red zone.
It's a shame we don't have kickers in this.
Yeah, exactly right. Kicker, the dude from Minnesota. Wide receiver 2, Neil.
Golden Tate, 6,700. He's one of only 2 players with 90 plus receptions in each of his last 4 seasons. He's going to go up probably in the slot for the Lions against the New York Jets, and he's going. The Jets slot cornerback is Buster Skrine. Buster Rhymes would do a better job. The Jets gave up the 9th most fancy points to wide receivers last year. They're not going to be great. The Lions may try and run the ball, but we know how that goes for the Lions. They'll eventually just end up. Tate's going to get 10 targets, so PPR format, this is perfect for Tate.
My wide receiver 2 is Terrence Williams, wide receiver, Los Angeles Chargers.
Tyrell Williams.
Sorry.
Terrence Williams is the crap Cowboys
crap Cowboys wide receiver, yeah. Don't do that, that again.
That's why I made the face.
Yeah, no, it's Tyrell Williams, the wide receiver. It just says T. Williams, and I just gambled. He will be on the other side of Keenan Allen, so it does mean he will get 75% less of the targets. However, he will still get targets. I think they will throw all over the Kansas City Chiefs. So I couldn't afford Keenan Allen, so the next best option was Mr. Williams.
I love Tyrell Williams. I have written extensively about him over the last 2 years. He will be a true fantasy superstar should Keenan Allen go missing or get injured, rather. But even so, as a secondary piece, I like him.
Exactly. When he's only 4,200, it's one of them ones that you're just going to go for. Who's your wide receiver 3, Neil?
Wide receiver 3 is Emmanuel Sanders, $5,000. Now, we talked about him. He's probably going to line up in the slot an awful lot, and we saw how much Case Keenum used the slot last year with Adam Thielen. The Broncos are playing the Seahawks, who were middle of the road in terms of fancy points to wide receivers last year. However, their defense now is missing so many players from last year, it's not even funny. Sanders, the last time the Broncos played the Seahawks, when the Seahawks were good, went 11 for 149. So I think he's going to see a lot of volume, and again, it's a good matchup, and he will, I think he's going to get the best chance to forge the chemistry with Case Keenum.
My wide receiver 3 is the anomaly that is the PPR wide receiver. So there's people love PPR or people don't love PPR. The fatal flaw with PPR is you get a point for every time you make a reception. I know that's what it's defined as, but that allows this player to be the 5th highest scoring wide receiver in PPR last season. That is Jarvis Landry. He's 5,500. He's playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he will get loads of targets because he always gets loads of targets, even though he's on a new team. Tyrod Taylor's not someone to launch it downfield. He's a safe, calculated quarterback who doesn't throw interceptions, so expect a lot of 3 yards to Jarvis Landry. So although you may only get 50 yards in your total, that will have accounted for 15 catches, which is 15 points.
Jarvis Landry is the biggest proponent for why PPR is not a true reflection of the modern game.
Correct, absolutely, and it's why, and I've forwarded it to you, Neil. There's a one on the ringer called points per first down, and I think it needs to get some pub. I think it's available on Yahoo. Who's your tight end, Neil?
As we stand, Austin Seferian-Jenkins, 3,200. I think I've already made my case for him.
Made a perfectly good case for him. My tight end is related to his quarterback. His quarterback's coming back from a major injury, and in the preseason, although limited, his average depth of target in terms of throwing has been a lot less than it used to be. Due to that, I am picking Jack Doyle to be the tight end for Andrew Luck and the Indianapolis Colts. They are not going to be they obviously need luck to be good. I mean, we've talked about how bad their defense is. Neil gave you some fake names there that I'm supposed to believe exist. But they want luck.
That's Stinky Nog.
They'll need luck to do things. I don't think he's throwing bombs to T.Y. Hilton. I don't think he's got the arm strength yet to be able to do that. So I think that makes Jack Doyle a valuable player on this Indianapolis Colts team.
Yeah, I like Doyle. He's another one that in drafts where I waited and waited for tight ends, he was always there. And we saw that he was quite productive last year without Andrew Luck. So having Luck back, even if Luck's not Andrew Luck yet, it's bound to be an upgrade on Jacoby Brissett.
Correct. Who's your flex option, Neil?
My flex is Christian McCaffrey, 6,400. Again, it's PPR. He's going to get his receptions. He has dominated the backfield. It's not a committee. It's Christian McCaffrey's backfield. The Cowboys weren't too bad in terms of fancy points to running backs because you didn't have to run on them. You could just pass on them. But, say, McCaffrey did have 80 receptions as a rookie. That's the fourth most in NFL history. He's starting to see some goal line carries. Now, we've spoken before that they don't really want Cam Newton to be calling his own number quite as often as he does. So this could be good for Christian McCaffrey. He's going to get his catches. He's going to get his targets. So I think for 6,400, he's actually my most expensive running back, but I've got him in as a flex. I'm quite happy to pay it.
My flex is I love a debut. Get yourself started. How about a debut on national TV? The bright lights on ESPN Monday Night Football. Brandon Cooks, 5,600, playing that shocking Oakland Raiders defense. We do have there's a fatal flaw in this, which me and Neil discussed most of last year. Was one of us would pick a LA Rams wide receiver at least once a week, and each week we got it wrong. Because it was always one of the other two or three who got all the yards. This week, I just have a feeling that Sean McVay is going to go with Brandon Cooks. So I'm going to go Brandon Cooks. He's 5,600.
You think it's his new toy he's going to want to show? He's going to want to play with it straight out the box?
Exactly. After this week, I think you're back to Sean McVay was the Shanahanigans level of wide receiver to running back concept. So you didn't know who was going to get it, which is good for a team. It's terrible for fantasy owners, but I have a feeling new toy out the box. Let's see what this thing can do, and you might get one of them, sneaky random end arounds. Do you know what I mean? There's a gadget playing Brandon Cooks.
Yeah.
Who's the defense and special teams, Neil?
3,800. The Baltimore Ravens. Now, before I go any further, I don't think Nathan Peterman is a terrible quarterback. Now, according to Player Profiler, we know he threw 5 interceptions in one half last year.
I do, yeah.
He didn't throw 5 interceptable passes.
Okay.
Because one of them, he threw it to the running back. The running back basically threw it into the air, and it was intercepted. That's not on Peterman. The other 4, they are. Now, I think we know we have differing views on Josh Allen. I think given how poor their offensive line is, there's no point putting it out there.
Absolutely.
So Peterman could be an efficient game manager for a team that has no offensive talent. So there's no game to manage. That being said, I think the Ravens on defense are going to have too much for them, and I think they're going to pummel the crap out of them. And they're going to stop the run, because they do. They don't give up points to tight ends, so that's Charles Clay out the picture. LaShawn McCoy, whatever you want, he's been nicked up. He's pretty much all they've got. But I don't think Buffalo have got the players. I don't think they've got the offensive line. They cannot lean on LaShawn McCoy because they're going to be behind. And if they're going to be behind, Peterman's going to have to take some chances, and that's going to lead to interceptions. So I've got 2 stacks in this team. I've got Dalton and Green, and I've got Collins and the Ravens D.
My defense is I always like picking against Dallas, and with no Travis Frederick and a number of other issues on the offensive line, I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers. They are 3,200. There is a concern that Ezekiel Elliott does a lot of running, but I do think there's a chance that they can get to Dak Prescott and cause a few issues, and that can only be seen as a good thing.
Absolutely.
So let's recap, Neil. Who's quarterback?
Andy Dalton.
I've got Phil Rivers, RB1.
Alex Collins.
David Johnson, RB2.
Dalvin Cook.
I've got Dalvin Cook 2. Wide receiver 1.
AJ Green.
I've got Stephon Diggs, wide receiver 2.
Golden Tate.
I've got T. Williams of the Los Angeles Chargers, wide receiver 3.
Manny Sanders.
I've got Jarvis Landry, tight end.
Austin Seferian Jenkins.
I've got Jack Doyle, everyone's favourite 1920s cop. Who's your flex?
Run CMC.
I have got Brandon Cooks and your defence and special teams.
The Baltimore Ravens.
And Carolina Panthers. I will be doing DraftKings this week, so if anyone wants to challenge me, I am Mainzy7, MAINZEY7. So challenge me and we'll see how we go. Neil, that is it. We are ready to go for week 1. Before anybody leaves us, please do some plugging on stuff that you've got coming out before Sunday.
Well, this week I have 2 articles coming out for RotoViz based on the game level similarity projections app at RotoViz. And what that does is, instead of just saying Rob Gronkowski averages 100 yards and a touchdown in his last 4 games against the Bills, that's a lovely story. 4 games is a pitiful sample size. What this does, it looks at players similar to Rob Gronkowski in their last 20 matchups against whatever team I just said. I think it might have been the Texans. It looks at that and it gives you a low, a median and a high projection for that player. So what I've done is I've looked on this for the quarterbacks to see if there's any surprising players who might be well worth a go as streamers, or players who you might look to not play at quarterback. And I'll be doing one for tight ends as well. That's this week. Going forward, I'll be doing those every week. I'll also be doing a wide receiver usage report. So that'll be tracking trends for wide receivers, if they're getting lots of targets, if they're not getting targets, how they're being used in the offense, whether that makes them worthwhile fantasy players. And also I'm going to be doing one a weekly for Number Fire of 5 statistics you need to know about the week just gone. So next week it'll come out, it'll be 5 statistics you need to know from week 1.
Fantastic.
And that's my set in stone weekly output for the season. There may be other things, there will be other here and there, hopefully for places like RotoViz, Number Fire, Player Profiler, and other people, maybe Yahoo if they still want me.
Fantastic, Neil, fantastic. Well, that's it. Week 1 preview in the books. We've given you our daily fantasy team of the week. Neil's given you a fantasy darling and a fantasy loser. Enjoy the games this week. It's good to be back. Thursday, Neil gets to cry while his team raises a banner. So congratulations to all them Philadelphia Eagles fans. But as Neil continually tells me about my football team, that's all history now. And it's time to get down to business. These top guys are out.